McLaren has been accused of pulling off a robbery in Mexico as the fallout of the race spills over. Specifically, this is with regard to the race stewards, one of whom was the heir to the McLaren empire, while the other has a perceived hatred for Verstappen. Formula One fans have adjusted to the fact that the race stewards are going to be biased every now and then and would be inconsistent. However, what most people didn't realise was that both stewards at the race appear to have a personal vendetta against Verstappen. One of the stewards was a British national, Johnny Herbert, and the other was the son of McLaren owner. Why would the son of McLaren owner decide a case between McLaren and Red Bull? But before we get into how these two were fingered, we need to figure out what exactly happened. The first penalty was given for forcing Norris off the track at turn 4. Norris was attempting to pass Verstappen on the outside of the corner. While Verstappen was ahead at the entry to the corner, Norris was ahead at the apex and was forced off the track. The stewards determined that this was not done in a safe and controlled manner, and that Norris would have been able to stay on the track if Verstappen had not forced him wide. The stewards deemed this to be a breach of the International Sporting Code, and a 10-second penalty was handed out. The second penalty was awarded for leaving the track and gaining an advantage at turn 8. Verstappen had attempted a dive bomb on Norris down the inside of the corner, but was deemed to have exceeded track limits. The stewards determined that this manoeuvre was not done in a safe and controlled manner, and handed out another 10-second penalty. A combined 20-second penalty was going to be controversial. Soon enough, it emerged that both stewards responsible for those penalties might have other motivations for doing that. We start with the first steward, Johnny Herbert. It was reported that Herbert, one of the stewards for the Mexican Grand Prix, has a history of controversial calls, especially concerning Verstappen. Fans and commentators alike perceive him to be biased against Verstappen, having once admitted that he doesn't like Verstappen's driving style. Others argued that Herbert's British nationality might influence his decisions, implying a potential bias in favour of British driver Lando Norris. Source echoes this sentiment, comparing the situation to a Football World Cup final between the UK and the Netherlands being officiated by an English referee, hinting at a possible unfair advantage for the British driver. Perhaps you feel the argument against Johnny Herbert is a bit far-fetched. How then would you explain the involvement of Tim Meyer, who was the second steward for that race? In his official page on the FIA website, the governing body itself admitted that Tim is the son of former team principal Teddy Meyer. Teddy Meyer, co-founder of McLaren with his brother. So, in the event that the son of the founder of McLaren is asked to make a decision involving a McLaren driver and a Red Bull, would he really be able to make an unbiased decision? Fans were enraged to learn who the stewards were, and the inconsistency with other decisions throughout the race only added to the fire. Some pointed to Perez's incident with Lance Stroll, where no penalty was given despite a manoeuvre similar to Verstappen's. Many commentators also challenged the notion of a standard 10-second penalty. They argue that the 10-second penalty, while officially considered the standard, was not consistently applied in previous races, with 5-second penalties being more common for similar offences. The sudden shift to a stricter interpretation in Mexico, particularly with Herbert's and Meyer's involvement, strengthens the argument that Verstappen was unfairly penalised. Red Bull were also furious at the decision, and when they poured into the data, what they found was startling. The telemetry data from the Mexican Grand Prix, specifically from lap 10, plays a crucial role in understanding the controversy surrounding Verstappen's first penalty. Christian Horner, Red Bull's team principal, presented telemetry data that indicated Lando Norris braked significantly later than his fastest lap time going into turn 4, where the first incident with Verstappen occurred. Horner argues that this data point demonstrates that Norris was carrying excessive speed into the corner anyways. Horner further suggests that Norris deliberately braked late to force the situation, knowing he could then use the regulations to his advantage and secure a penalty against Verstappen. Horner's analysis of the telemetry contends that Norris was 15 km/h faster into turn 4 on lap 10 compared to his fastest lap of the race. However, a separate analysis of the telemetry data from the same incident presented in contradicts Horner's interpretation. This analysis, while acknowledging that Norris braked later, asserts that he still had sufficient braking power to remain within track limits and complete the overtake. Crucially, this analysis points to Verstappen's use of 20% more throttle at the apex exit as the primary reason Norris was forced off the track. This aggressive acceleration, the analysis argues, was a deliberate tactic by Verstappen to push Norris wide and defend his position, directly leading to Norris missing the next corner. The conflicting interpretations highlight the complexities of using telemetry data in judging racing incidents, as the same data points can be interpreted in different ways depending on the context and the perspective of the analyst. But we will like to hear from you. Was this a justified penalty, or did you feel Red Bull were robbed?